Good morning, everybody. Thank you much for waiting in the lobby. Welcome to ACUTEC's Cyber Security webinar. Today we're going to try and keep it fairly basic. We're not going to go too technical. If you are technical, I'm sure it's still going to be relevant. There'll be questions to ask. But we're going to try and keep it fairly simple and go through a few steps to securing your network, and also we're going to give you a live example of how we can pretend to be somebody else or steal somebody's identity. And we're going to use someone quite famous. So on the call today is myself, Steve Marks, I'm the sales manager. We've got Amy, who's kindly arranged all this for everybody.
Hello.
We've also got our technical manager, Irfan, who is going to be our security expert for today.
Hi, everyone.
Right, so let's start. So first of all, 7 essentials for cybersecurity. Now, you may not know the answer to these. If you don't, you can give us a call and we can try and help you. You can speak to your IT team and ask them. The point of this really is that you need to check that these things are in place. Now, I'm sure the majority of you will know what a few of these things are, such as antivirus and anti-spam. You may not know what everything is, but we're just going to go over these in brief detail. If you're not sure, as I said, please ask your IT team or give us a call and we'll help you. So first of all, firewall is really a device which sits on the perimeter of your network to make sure people can't access your network. Antivirus is an application which sits on your local device, sits on your servers, protects you and does scans against viruses. Anti-spam protects your email to stop any emails coming in. Patch management is to make sure you're secure, make sure you're up to date. Backup and disaster recovery, we need to make sure that's in place so if something does happen, we can get you back up and running. And there's a couple of other ones which I'm going to ask Irfan to expand upon, which is understandable IT policy and end user education. Irfan, I'm going to ask you.
I think that's a bit funny, isn't it, that you're passing the non-technical bits to me, Steve, but that's quite important. The reason is I can program and I can configure all the technical bits. I'm really comfortable with those bits. The bits I am most uncomfortable with are the users, and I'm going to be brutally honest with people on this call. The end users are the biggest vulnerability within your organization. We can recommend, and your IT companies can recommend all the tech in the world and configure it. But if you've got a front door and it's locked, and then one of your end users just opens it and lets somebody in without checking anything, that's a massive vulnerability. So what I would say is make your IT policies, check you've got one, and make it really easy. Get a front sheet with 10 steps and make it just the basics, and you can have a detailed policy behind it. And end user education, help your end users understand what they should and shouldn't be doing with their IT systems at work, and what they can and can't access, and the types of emails that are relevant to them or not. So that's basic. This is the stuff I have little influence over, but we can give advice and guidance on, Steve.
Thank you. We're going to go into a bit more detail shortly about actually pretending to be somebody and doing phishing, but just to, I suppose the next slide really is how does this affect you as an organisation. Okay, so just flicking on to the next slide, I suppose really it's what is the concern to you, how does this affect you as an organisation. So Irfan, do you want to explain a little bit more detail on sort of data and the finance side, and I'll go on to the reputation a little after.
Yeah, of course. So again, people on this call will be directors, financial controllers, and ultimately you are the people responsible for data and the finance within the business. Now, somebody in your organization will have their name on the document that goes to the information commissioner, and if there is a data breach, that data could potentially be sold on if anybody thinks it's of value. But a lot of you might be listening in saying, nobody out there really wants the data I've got. But I can guarantee you there is one organization in this world that desperately needs your data and really can't do without it, and that's your own. So another way for people to exploit you is not only to try and sell your data, but actually to stop you from accessing it and then trying to sell it back to you. So that's called denial of service, and that's one way that you can be breached and you're at risk. So if you ask you the question, how does this affect me? If you're in any way in charge of the data within your business or not, unaffected by it, you can lose it or you can be stopped. They can stop you accessing your own data and try and sell it back to you. Financially, the implications can be as follows. You could get fined. The Information Commissioner is introducing fines of up to 4% of annual turnover, which is substantial. You know, some organisations that have high turnover only make 1 or 2 percentage points on margin, and losing 4% in a fine can be crippling. The other thing I'd really like to touch on, which is quite prevalent in today's environment, is something called invoice fraud. Somebody sending you an email saying this payment needs to happen, and they might pretend to be a supplier, a customer, or a colleague, and that's another way a lot of information and finance money is leaving organisations. Back to you on the reputation.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. I just will add, I notice a few people are sort of joining in as the webinar's going on. If you've missed some of the start, please feel free to give us a call, and we'll answer any questions about how this all started. So the reputation, the reason that's a concern really is whether you're a business, whether you're a charitable organisation, if you lose client data or data is breached, your reputation is at risk really. Your clients won't be happy, or anybody you will maybe raising donations for, they're not going to be happy if that data is breached. So it can seriously affect how you trade as an organisation. Or
I'll mention the big one, Steve. It's TalkTalk. They lost 100,000 clients when their data was breached.
Yeah.
And I know people might not think the size of that organisation, but even smaller organisations, if your biggest client or biggest supplier thinks you're a breach to them, they'll stop dealing with you. So it's important. Reputation is paramount, and you've taken years to build it. It takes seconds to lose it.
Correct, yeah. So what we're going to do today, there may be a few terms that we'll use shortly, such as phishing or spear phishing, which you may not heard of. We will explain these a little bit later on, but we're going to try, as I said, we're going to give you a bit of a demonstration to show you how easy we can sort of replicate somebody or pretend we're somebody else and steal someone's identity. We're going to use Donald Trump as the person's identity we're going to steal, but what we're actually going to do is Irfan's going to build a picture of a lady called Helen Daniels and how she's working from home and things. And we're going to show you how easy we can steal Donald Trump's identity to communicate with Helen. So we're going to build a bit of a picture up here, so just bear with us as we do that, and I'm going to hand over to Irfan, who's going to go through the next few slides.
So, okay, we're using something that's prevalent in cybercrime, which is social engineering. Now, this is what marketeers use when they try to capture an audience or their demographic. So it's the same with these organized criminals. They are very organized, and they carry out social engineering campaigns to try and capture the certain demographic. Now, at the top of their list are financial directors or financial controllers, because they have their hands on the purse strings. So I'm just painting a picture. Her name's Helen. She's the founder of a non-for-profit educational charity called Winston and Daniels. She is obsessive about this organization because due to personal experience, she started it with a partner and they've developed it into this successful non-for-profit. Helen is going on on maternity leave, and she will still be working from home because she knows she's integral to the business. Everybody who's involved in a small organization today knows that this happens, and she's going to be working from home, so she's taking a laptop. Now, what happens next is normal. So I am trying to scare people, but at the same time, I'm just trying to explain that this is normal practice to use social media. At no point during this webinar am I going to suggest that you stop using social media. What's important is that when you use social media, you're giving away some information. Now here, the organization is sending Helen a tweet saying, "Congratulations." Now it's in the public sphere. And what Helen is going to do is reply, and Helen will say, "Thank you very much." And again, Helen's giving up a little bit of information on Twitter. Now, anyone who's following Helen or the organization can see that. But people who really want to get to this information can quite easily get to it, even if they're not following. Then what will happen is Helen will use something like Facebook and have a conversation with a friend, Wendy, who's going through something similar but is struggling, and Helen saying, actually, I've been able to work from home and this is working for me. Now, something that Helen will do is answer her emails, but she might not always be there. So she might be attending to George, her little baby, and knows that even though she might get round to it as soon as she's finished, she wants her colleagues to know and her customers to know that she will reply to them. Everybody does this. She's giving away some information by putting out an out of office. Everybody does it. So when anybody who knows her email address, which can easily be found, if they send her an email, will know she's not in the business at the moment. Now, what I want to do is very quickly show you how easy it is to spoof an email address. Now, you might think this is something that takes place on the dark web, or you think it might be something that takes place in some geek's room or Eastern European organization. But no, actually this happens using tools that might easily be found on Google.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to show you how easy it is.
Yeah. So what Earthen's going to do, as we said, we're going to basically do a phishing attack, and we're going to show you, literally show you how easy it is. And it is a case of using a tool such as Google, email spoofing. You search your website.
So you can see how easy the search was. I typed in email spoofing website, and I'm going to use the top link. Now, anybody can use this. I don't recommend it because you're putting your details in this, but actually it will work for pretty much anybody. And Steve said, let's pretend to be someone famous. I wanted to be a bit more realistic, but actually this probably has a bit more impact.
And just to show here that, we're using obviously Donald Trump as an name, but this could be anybody within your organisation. So it could be a colleague, somebody you work with, somebody you trust.
Can I just say it normally is? It normally pretends to be the MD telling the financial director to make a payment. It normally is the financial director telling the financial controller to make a payment. Something along those lines. On occasion, it is a supplier saying, can you please make this payment? And so on, but we're just showing you can actually pretend to be anybody. So again, we've just picked an email, donald.trump@trump.com. We're going to send it to Helen Daniels, and we'll just put something like important payment as the title. Now, this is the method to get inside your organization. So this is the tool, the vehicle to get inside your organisation. And I've just had something I just typed out earlier. Please, can you make a payment to the specialist care unit? And what we're assuming here is that the criminal has found out they have a relationship with an organisation called the specialist care unit, and they make payments to them, which is quite easily found out via social media, via Companies House, and so on. So it's that simple. Even this website doesn't want to be hacked or have robots using it, so it's asking me to prove I'm not a robot. So I tick that box, and then we send that email. And really, as you can see, it's forms based. Anybody can use it. You can send it to anybody, and it's pretending to be an email. And we'll just check, and there you see it's gone in to the top one. Obviously, I'd sent a test earlier, so you can see that one from yesterday. And she's also had emails from Bill Gates and James Bond, so you can actually see there that Helen's quite popular.
Very popular. She's very well connected.
Very well connected in the world. So what's happened is, again, Steve, I've got to stress, this is the vehicle.
Yes.
In this email, there is no thing that I call a payload. There is just a request. So this is a simple request. Hi, Helen, can you make a payment? And in the last month, we have had 2 companies come to us that have actually said this has happened to them and they've made the payment. And they might pretend to be from within your organisation. Now, if they're from within your organisation or pretending to be from within your organisation, there are steps we can take or help you take to stop those emails coming in. But from outside of your organisation, if you are britishgas.com or .co.uk and they change the British Gas and just change the I to a 1, we can't They're the ones we can't really stop. We can turn up the anti-spam, but it might stop lots of other emails. So it's about end user training, making sure they spot these things. And that's just how easy it is.
Yeah. And I think it's just really, you know, people, these criminals, they prey on when you might be at weak or you're not at your best, really. So, you know, as I was trying to show in here, Helen's away at the moment because she's just had a baby. She may be very busy. She might get an email from somebody internally to say, can you make a payment urgently? You know, so she's busy, she's stressed, she makes that payment by mistake, you know, and that's, unfortunately, that's the way cybercrime, or people are getting caught out very easily.
So I just want to stress that this isn't the only request.
Yeah.
Normally in emails, Steve. What also happens is this is called invoice fraud. And another thing that regularly happens is something called ransomware. And instead of a request for a payment, what would happen here, and what is more likely you would click on, is something pretending to be from someone you know, and it being an attachment like an Excel file or a PDF. Hidden inside that PDF or Excel file is an executable file that will encrypt all your data you have access to within your organization. And that is called a crypto locker attack, and it encrypts all the files in your organization, stopping you from using them. The other thing they could do is just install a virus that hacks into your system and steals data. So that is the payload. In this email, we don't have a payload. It's just a request, but it can actually be something as simple as an Excel file. So I think I just want to touch on how easy that was. We kept it simple because it's a webinar and a demo here. We could quite easily have attached a Excel file and shown you how that encrypts the data, but I will talk about that briefly now. But I want to touch on what phishing.
Yeah, well, as we said earlier, there are different types of phishing and different types of so there's standard phishing and there's spear phishing. So do you want to just go over those two in a bit more detail? Explain.
They're terrible terms, aren't they? But phishing is pretty much come from the term when you go fishing and you try and catch something. That's what's happening. A large net is being cast far and wide, and phishing normally looks like, here's an email from Amazon or Netflix or eBay saying, click this link, or UPS or Royal Mail saying there's a delivery for you. That's what normal phishing looks like. How spear phishing differs is it's targeted to you. So spear phishing normally knows your name, knows the organization you work for, and a lot of times knows the person they are pretending to be is relevant in your work life.
And they generally will be using social media to actually engineer that message that they're going to send, so they know that in Helen's position, it's that case, that she's away from work at the moment, and that will be put across in the email that they send.
So again, let me help you visualize. Phishing, large net, cast far and wide, we hit and hope, let's see what we can get. Spear phishing, a big fish in a small bathtub or a barrel, you standing over it with a spear, it's targeted, it knows it wants you, and it's going to go for you specifically. And it's going to say something like, Helen, please make this payment. Helen, please review this document. And you're going to click it and it might infect you.
Yeah. And obviously the other cases, it could be ransomware that secures your data or something like that. So your organisation, I suppose, if you go through these questions really and you can answer yes to any of these, then you need to have a chat to your IT team, really, or you need to give us a call. You know, if you have got concerns about security, if you can think of examples, or if it's been problems for more than a month, you know, these are key critical things here. You know, your network security is the utmost to keep your organisation or business operational. You know, as we've said, it is affecting so many businesses and organisations now, and you know, 1 or 2 days worth of downtime can seriously affect the organisation and can be an extreme cost to you. So, you know, if you're not sure, please give us a call and we will answer that.
Okay, I want to stress something here. We don't expect everyone on this call to be technical. Actually, the majority of people are not. The right answer, I'm IT. We are the IT department for many companies. The right answer is not our IT company deals with this. That happens. People think that. People also think that of us as an organisation, but this is a partnership. We are arming you with the questions as decision makers, directors, financial controllers, to go and ask your IT departments, the person responsible for IT, your IT partners, are we looking at this and are these boxes ticked? Do we have, like at the start of the slide we'll go over at the end, do we have these components in? And the biggest thing I'd like you to consider is end user training. Can we enlighten the staff that if they receive an email and they work in accounts and they receive an email from UPS or from Federal Express or from Royal Mail, that their delivery has arrived, it's not really their job to go and click on that link and see what delivery it is. In the same breath, if you work in the warehouse, Companies House is not going to send you an email to review the finances of your business, so you really have no place to be clicking on that link.
Yeah. And I think there's a very misconception across a lot of organisations that I'm on my work network, whatever I click on, it's not going to affect anything, and that is not the case. You know, you are as the end user, you're giving that email or your authority to open or install a virus onto your system. And yes, you know, I'm sure most networks have got various security things in place to protect them, but it will not always protect the network.
What makes you say that, Steve? Is it the that report that we read? So there is actually a study that has been carried out that, and this is sad, that people are more likely to click on something at work than they are at home, thinking one of two things: that it's more protected, and actually the darker side of that is, well, let me just see what there is. It's not my system that it's going to affect. And there are numerous occasions where people click on links and it will infect. And I'm going to stress this again. If you click on those links, if you open those attachments, it will use a technology that we use to help you protect your data, which is called encryption. I'm just going to highlight this very quickly, Steve. We use a technology. If anybody in your business uses a laptop, they should encrypt those devices. If they leave the building, then if you lose it, no one can access it without that encryption key. That is core technology that helps keep you safe. What criminals are doing is using that technology against us. They put it in a file, you click on it, download it, and encrypts all your files, and guess who's got the key? The criminals. Only the criminals have that key, and they will say, please pay us €300. They keep that amount small, and then say you've got 24 hours to pay, otherwise it's going to go up. That's how they exploit you. They are holding you to ransom, and that's where the term ransomware comes from. So please be aware, the biggest threats at the moment we're seeing are invoice fraud, like you saw, and ransomware delivered as the payload.
Okay. Okay, so just from the screen there, we can send you this if you want to. Basically, it's the 7 Cyber Essentials checks. Amy has kindly created a security playbook, which will give you a bit more information. Please feel free to go and download that, share that between your staff. It will ask you to put your email address in. Obviously, we've already got your email address anyway, so yeah, please don't make that as a blocker. Please share it between your staff.
Look, as the techie here, I'd ask you to hopefully download that playbook, and there's 7 steps. There are a lot more that needs to be done, but it's a good place to start. I would like you to carry out a real world exercise for me. Download the playbook and put a tick or a cross or a question mark next to each one of those 7 steps. And if you have even one question mark or cross, please talk to the people responsible in your IT, or if you're not comfortable doing that because you're not sure, just call us and we'll tell you what to ask.
Yeah, okay, brilliant. Okay, well, I think we're pretty much coming to the end of the webinar. If anybody's got any questions, we're going to stay on the call for a while now. Please type them in on the box. As I did say earlier, if there's a specific question you don't particularly want to share with the group, we're available to take calls. Please give us a call in the office or drop us an email directly. But yeah, please, we're going to stay on the call. Please send a message if you've got any questions.
I've been emailed one actually.
Okay.
This one is from John, and he just wants to know what the difference is between phishing and spear phishing are.
Go on, I'll give that to you.
Yeah, again, I did mention it earlier, but I'll put it out there again. Anyone with a marketing team in their organisation, go and have a chat with them about how they target specific people. These are very intelligent criminal organisations. Phishing is just trying your luck. Email are going out about Netflix, about Amazon, about eBay, could be anything, and hoping you'll click on it. Spear phishing is targeted at you or your organisation. They know your organisation's name, they know your name possibly, and more importantly, they know people who you know, so you will probably click and link and open that email. So that's spear phishing, specifically targeting you.
Any more questions, Amy?
I'm just waiting now. Yeah, come through.
Just to reiterate, actually, it was asked to us yesterday, isn't it, about my IT team. I've generally got this in hand. I know we have mentioned it. Do you want to just go over that? I mean, it's quite a common one, isn't it? You believe the IT team sorted it.
Yeah. Well,
who's responsible? And there's always that question of who's responsible to make sure the network's secure. Is it the IT team, or is it the directors of the company?
Right. So let me address this. I will break this down, Steve. Some organisations have an IT admin person, and he might be just an employee, and he might not be management. I would say it's your responsibility as people in management or directors to guide that person. If you have an IT manager, I still think it falls to the directors to ask the right questions and lay out the technology strategy. If you have an IT director or a CIO, then I think it's important to engage with those directors or CIOs and say, I am responsible for the finance of this organization. I work with you closely. Can I ask you these questions? We're here to allow any one of you that are not technical to ask your technical teams of the right questions. Anyone who is technical, we're here to give you some direction because we've got vast experience of this. Please go away and think about these 7 questions. They are not for your IT team. They are aimed at you, the demographic. We've done a bit of spear phishing, Amy had, and made sure she knows who she's talking to. The people on this call are here to learn about the threats. We just want to give you a simple checklist.
And just to reconfirm there, I think if you're on Company's House or you're the director, you're responsible for the security network. If you're going to get fined, it's going to be you that they're going to come to. It's not going to be the IT admin. And the other things probably haven't really mentioned on this call, there are products such as cyber insurance. So it's worth looking at your insurance to make sure you're covered. If you do have a data breach, you're responsible to ensure that you notify everybody in your database. There's obviously a cost to mail everybody in that. There are obviously the fines that we've already talked about. And there's the damage limitation. If you are a well-known brand, or how that's going to affect your brand and things like TalkTalk.
Steve, can I say, before the bank used to pick up the bill for these type of invoice frauds, that's stopping. It's getting so big and so beneficial for the cyber criminals that it's happening day in, day out. The banks are stopping that. I think the cyber insurance product you mentioned is a good thing to consider. It is just to add on to your normal insurance policies, but I say again, this is for you to question the other people in your organization, to making sure you're at least thinking about key technologies. When we say the word firewall on that list, we don't expect you to be thinking about it. On that playbook, it'll say firewall. Thinking about what a firewall is, just go and ask your IT team, do we have this in place, and is it up to date? And when we talk about end user training, we're not saying go and train your end users. What we're saying is educate your management teams and update your IT policy so they know what they should be putting in place to ensure your end users are trained.
Thank you, Irfan. Right, we've got 2 more questions. We'll deal with Sue's first. So Sue would like to know, how often should people change their access passwords?
I would like to say, as a minimum, monthly basis, but up to 3 months is normal in most organizations. So a lot of people have it at 90 days. The majority of people, I would suggest, have it for 30 days. It's a good cycle. Sue, if you drop Amy an email, we've got a brilliant little email that tells you how easy it is to crack an email and what some suggestions of what emails should be. My favourite is having some kind of phrase. This isn't mine, and I don't recommend anybody uses it, but I just use an example. Anyone on the call old enough to remember Bruce Forsyth? It's better to have phrases like "nice to see you nice." I know it sounds long. It's easy to remember. It's practically impossible to crack, and you can put numbers in it. So
I think the key is there has to be uppercase, lowercase, special characters.
Yeah.
Passwords are quite easy to break, and you'd be surprised how many people repeat the same one. There's some statistics done a few years ago that most, and we're going away from IT here, but most people's alarm code was 1066. It's quite common. People use the same things. And please, and you may have seen some of the social media, don't stick passwords on your monitors. Don't stick them up on boards. They get noticed. A little video or picture, people pick up on these type of things.
Yeah.
There is a blog on our website that gives you advice on how to do a passphrase rather than a password.
And the thing to remember is that I would, as a techie, I would say this, so don't listen to me if you don't want, but I would enforce it through your IT group policies on your servers. I would set a policy to say it must change rather than leaving it down to the end user. Yeah. 2 ways to do it. You can put it in your IT policy and say you must change your password every 30 to 90 days, or you can actually enforce it. You will get some pushback from your end users, but that is the safest way. And we can also add complexity, that it must be this complex.
And probably going slightly off and probably a little bit too deep, there are things like two-factor authentication as well that you can maybe add to security.
Password managers are a good place to put all your passwords, and then you just have one password to log into it, and then all your other passwords are in there, but you make that one password as secure as you possibly can.
Brilliant, Irfan. Right, we're going to go on to the next question now, which is from Luke, who says, not sure if this is the best place to ask, but you mentioned that all devices should be encrypted to make things more secure. Is there one you recommend for over another for remote devices? Do you recommend BitLocker or a third party?
Oh, well, I'm glad you mentioned it, Luke, and sorry if we're getting a bit techie for the rest of the audience. BitLocker is the one I tend to recommend, but again, drop me a quick email or a quick call, and I can recommend others. I don't want to go into too much. And
I think it does also depend on your exact circumstances and how you want to work.
You don't want to overload your workload or the people in your organization. The place I would start with laptops or tablets that leave your perimeter, leave your building. Start with encrypting those. Once they are normally managers or directors, once you've got them on board, it's easier then to encrypt every other device.
Brilliant. Okay, and the last question I've got at the moment is, what would be the best action on an email that looks legitimate from someone within the company?
If it looks legitimate within the company, it's down to end user training. I'll give you an example, a real life example. There was someone called Gillian who never was called Gillian, and she was always called Jill. And in the email, her email was Gillian. I won't say her surname. And the email said, "Hi Gillian, can you please make this payment?" And it was from the MD, and she was the financial controller. She stood up, stormed over to the MD, and said, I hate that name. Why are you calling me Gillian? So what I'm saying is, get your end users to pick on the small idiosyncrasies that might look different. There are steps you can take to stop you getting internal spoofs that are exactly from your email address, and we can help you with that. What we can't stop is if it says britishgas.co.uk, but they change the I for a 1, or they change the S for a 5, then that will come in. So the other thing I can advise you is you have to check the detail of the email, and I'm sorry, we're going to have to batten down the hatches and advise you to get more diligent and tell your end users that any suspicious emails, if they look the wording looks out, the salutation looks out, then question it and delete it, or ask your IT manager to have a look at it, or your IT partner.
For our clients, we generally we have an open email policy. If they're not sure, they just send it to us, and our tech team will check that. We can check things like the security headers and see how that works.
Yeah.
Do you have any other questions at all? Please feel free. We're going to be sat on the call for more.
Luke would like Irfan's email address. No problem at all. I will just put that into the box.
Five.
Oh, okay.
Please feel free to ask any questions. Anybody will be sat here for a while.
Sorry, Luke. Apologies. That's a
Hang on.
wrong number. There we go. There we go. That's better.
There we go. Brilliant. Thanks, Luke.
I think. Any more questions, or I think that's it.
We'll hang on for a moment,
Yeah.
please. We're not in any rush, so please feel free to ask any if you've got any. Don't matter how silly it is, if you're not sure.
Please feel free. Oh, and just to let you know about the phishing emails, we will be having a blog in probably a week or two on the website that is will show you different types of phishing emails, how you can spot the differences in them.
What I'm definitely interested in, those of you who want to question the IT people in your organisations, give me a call. I'll go through the 7 steps in layman terms with you and just help you break that down, because within the 7 steps there's probably another 3 steps for each one that makes it really easy for you to implement this stage by stage. We want it to be easy and want you to think about this just like your real world security, just like you might think of putting a gate in real life, or a front door, or an alarm system, or a fire alarm, or a sprinkler system. I want to make it that simple for you to protect your infrastructure just like you would your buildings.
Is there any more questions? Doesn't seem to be. Okay, I think we should wrap up now. Do you reckon, guys?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope that you found it useful, and you'll join us again for another webinar sometime soon. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.